I would do anything for Ashoka. While my best friend was running around gaining glory and fame in Arabia, I, Bashaa, did everything someone like me could do for him. He asked me to bring civilians from Gedrosia, so I did it. Escort them to Hamosia for military enlistment, so I did it. Ashoka often mentioned his concern for our lack of troops in the west. Most of their forces are required in the east, as the tension between Maurya and Kalinga grows more dangerous by the second. So Ashoka's request for me to train more troops for his endeavors made sense. Even more so when you think about the catastrophic losses he took from his first 2 invasion attempts. Such valuable resources lost. Why in heavens did my foolish son leave Bashaa here? That lowborn scum is good for nothing but sacrificial labor. If he as much as stands in my way for conquest and glory, I will send him to elephant duty instantly. Ashoka already failed me once. Not for his losses, but the fact that he made me lose a step in our invasion of Persia. Now Atropatkan owns Eulaio, whereas it should in fact be me. However, some time has gone by since then, and to be fair, I actually miss that little brat. His talents for public order management could be valuable once I march into the Zagros Mountains. Alas, ever since Ashoka marched into the scorching desert of Arabia, I haven't heard a single word from him since. And by the looks of my intel, the Atropatkan forces have left the south unguarded, going for one of the former Seleucid vassals. Once I take on Atropatkan, all of our Persian civilians will surely see me as the liberator. Waiting for Ashoka to return with Arabian reinforcements is not possible. The urge to strike now was impossible to resist. I honestly don't know why, but despite my best attempts to be a good emperor, Persis always seems to despise my rule. Fuck him, the opposition is dead now. It was the right time as well, with the northern tiger starting to growl once again. I must really have rattled the hornet's nest, as they have sent down 2 large armies, now standing less than a week's march away from Eulaio. So long they stay divided, they are no problem for me. My archers might have demolished one enemy strike, but this sort of pressure, as much as it hurts me to say, I can't deal with it on my own. Bashaa, as little as I like him, was still somewhat competent in warfare, more so than my youngest child, who can't let go of that creepy enemy head of his. I know Bashaa was training soldiers in Hamosia. I traveled down there personally to give him the order, and although he seemed hesitant and a bit woozy for some reason, he accepted. No one can refuse someone like me. I vaguely recall him mentioning something about Ashoka and aid, but I didn't bother to listen. How foolish of him. Ashoka is in Arabia and won't be able to help anyway. The second attack was repelled as well. I wonder how it feels to lose 2 invasions in a row. Maybe I should ask Ashoka once he returns. With Atropatkan siding with the Seleucids and the other Greeks, it seems like my divide and conquer strategy won't work anymore. In that case, I signed 2 defensive pacts with Haraiva and Shranka. With the monetary benefits to me, of course. I am no fool. Bindusara is such a fool. We haven't heard a word from Ashoka in almost a year, and all he cares about is his stupid glory. The people are starving and he's doing nothing to stop it. I can't help either. The emperor needs me, Bashaa of all people, to save his ass. If he as much as looked at the bigger picture, it was clear to see he was about to get pincered. Both in the short term by the Atropatkan armies, but also by the Seleucids and the larger Persian nation itself, once he marches into the mountain range. Probably that is why he chose me, to bring me down with him if anything goes wrong. I'm being forced to recruit lesser warriors on my way to Passopolis, while Bindusara aggressively keeps on pushing. I must admit, his countless victories are impressive, yet he is playing with powers far larger than himself. The Atropatkan invaders did make a rushed attack on Passopolis, but got repelled due to its high walls. Great, the longer time they hold out, the more I have to muster an army strong enough to destroy our invaders for good. Finally, outside the walls, a large group of refugees who were left outside the city before the siege offered their help to assist in the upcoming battle to break this bombardment of Passopolis. The hunters entered the archer regiment, with the farmers getting a sword and shield. Finally ready, it was time to strike. They had formed up in an extremely wide formation, so of course there was only one proper way to approach this engagement. I will personally lead an offensive contingent of troops on the right to ambush the enemy flank. Our archers will bring cover on the left, with the lead spears as emergency troops. Our cavalry will be the bait. After throwing their javelins, we clearly gained the attention of their troops. Once they were out in the open, my first line split up to pin down all units. My bodyguards will rush into the gap. Our two-handed axemen took the long way around to hit the enemy from behind. With them, including their general, gone, I reorganized my forces to make a cohesive final strike. What a battle that was. The Persians were practically crushed. Now they are on the run, on their way towards Bindusara. As much as I hate him, I will never leave him or anyone related to Ashoka to their doom. I gotta pursue them. This might lead me straight into the heart of the enemy, but I need to. During my conquest of the Zagros Mountains, I crushed the remnant soldiers from the invasion. We captured their cowardly general who begged for mercy. However, a man like him doesn't deserve to live. On my expedition north, a Seleucid diplomat approached our camp. He asked for a trade deal and that we paid for it. Who does he think he is? The only way I would accept a deal like that would be if they submit to my regime. Never mind this disturbing request, I continued to push forward. Although I started this war with Atropatkan to crush a potential ally of the Greeks, I would rather keep them as a vassal, to show how just a leader I actually am. A publicity stunt, as per se. Yet their persistence was uncanny. Maybe if I just could occupy their capital, they would surrender. But first, we had to pass Epiphany. Here I was actually close to being killed by my own war elephants. Note to myself, whenever I'm about to engage a foe, stay as far away from these tusked beasts as possible. No matter what, I allowed my eager men to loot the town with a large portion of it being sent back to eastern Maurya, escorted by the Persian Manobassas. He would lead the wagons to mainland Maurya and embark on a mission to Arabia to find Ashoka afterwards. I would have done it myself, but I'm too occupied. Manobassas is in debt to Ashoka for sparing his life after all. This is the least he could do. Maybe he can even bring back news of what actually is going on in the east. These rumors about a growing Kalinga threat is exceedingly making me question this aggression in the west. Should I return? No. It would just appear weak. There is no other way but forward. However, the path ahead is not so obvious as one might think. I'm currently enlisting help from Parthian locals while being pressured by Atropatkan armies from the east. They were too scared to face me retreating into their own land, so that was at least something. With Epiphania practically worthless after the looting, I saw no reason to protect it and thus took the army on a march straight for their capital. Taking it was easy, but my expectations... My expectations for Atropatkan to submit after this was wrong. Instead, they just moved their capital to Fraspa and instigated a rebellion at Epiphania. A truly terrible thing, and I would honestly have been devastated by this if not for the trade agreement and prospering friendship we started to get with a Celtic tribe called the Galatians. All they truly demanded was for us to assist them in a war against Armenia, a small or lesser known nation that didn't look like anything to me. Not compared to the size of my empire. Fraspa fell not long after giving us even more gold to send home. I honestly have no clue what Bashaa is doing. After ages of me calling upon his aid, he finally arrived on the front lines. And what does he do? Flippin' just raid the countryside. Atropatkan is about to cut me off from the mainland, and all he does is nothing. Once the Persians then sent a force to stop his little misbehavior, he lost almost half of his forces, okay, maybe just 25% or so, but it became half of his forces once he continued the offensive. This time it must have been too much, as he fled back to the south again. He doesn't deserve to be a general. I will strip him of his ranks once I return home. I, on the other hand, was successful enough to reopen my supply lines back to the core regions again by recapturing Epiphania. The rebellion that once was here was gone. probably dissolved under the short Atropatkan occupation. Who knows, really? What's important is that we could re-establish our trade routes with Galatia. They were quite furious for a short while, yet I can't but feel threat of rebellion within our own lands again. Man of Basas, you better not have done anything with that great sum of gold you were escorting.